Y'all remember the hype of Side Order? The announcement of it in the February 2023 Direct just brought so much hype, it was incredible times. We started theorizing this is what Splatoon 3 would have looked like if Team Rocket had won the final Splatfest versus Splatoon 2. We theorized this was Marina's backstory, what was happening on the tour. There was just so much going on, we couldn't wait to get our hands on it until it was this. A roguelike that lacked the pizzazz and hype we were giving it. And now looking back on it 2 years later, we ask, why was this disappointment? Welcome to a talk about the disappointment of Side Order DLC for Splatoon 3. Hello Ninjas, welcome back. In today's video, we head back to a franchise I've loved for half my lifetime. I've turned 20 in October, and this game has consumed my life for 11 years! It's crazy, man. Now, I've had my fair share of playing this franchise, especially Splatoon 3. Heck, I have over 1,100 hours in this game. I was really active in the community during its first few years of being active. So I know what it's like to see people's opinions on the matter. Last time we chatted about the game in general and how we see, as a community, gave it so much hype and opportunity, but it turned out to just be a missed potential game. In today's video, we're going to be exploring more of the DLC for Splatoon 3, Side Order, and how we gave it the hype it needed to be good, and then, turns out to be this. A roguelike that lacked enjoyment and replayability. Why does a roguelike not work? Why did we overhype it? What was needed in order to make this a great DLC? All of that, and much more in today's review of how Side Order was a disappointment. The first thing we need to discuss out of the three major reasons is how we overhyped it. Now this has become a recurring thing in this community, seeing something that generally looked good and overhyping it. One may say this could be on the developers for not being considerate of what people may assume it's about. However, what I believe is what we assumed was what the content update. We thought this was going to be what Splatoon 3 would have looked like had Team Rocket won and gained backstory on Marina's past. Because, while yes, Octo Expansion did kind of cover that, there were still a couple more questions we were still wondering about Marina's backstory and how she came to Pearl, off to Hook, and Splatoon 2 in general. The first part is incorrect. This wasn't about the other side, this was about Marina's past, in which they did a very bad job at explaining it throughout the trailers provided. And then to make it worse, they barely explained Marina's past in the DLC itself. All they gave you was a sick-ass boss fight when you first start the DLC, 10 pages about the build of Side Order, and what was going on during the tour, and lastly some dialogue counters between her, Pearl, and Oct throughout your adventure on the runs. So the entire time you are playing, it doesn't feel like a story is being told. It feels like clues are being told towards a story. That doesn't even feel like a story at all. You're just going through these floors of repetitive motion that's leading you to nothing. And not to mention, once you keep playing it over and over again, it's the same dialogue that leads to absolutely nothing for a story over and over and over again. They think that 12 pages is going to be enough to tell a story. No, it's not. We need more juice out of it than what we are given. Why are we given such a small bit? Octo Expansion had a vastly larger story than we ever seen before. Why can't they just do it here? It makes zero logical sense. Once you complete a run through every single weapon, the reward at the end is just being able to play in regular battles, ranked battles. Okay, so surely they'll have new, unique oh my god, it's a race skin! Splendid, so I just spent an hour on each weapon, grinding and battling through hordes of enemies, and my reward is a reskin variant of if it's vanilla kit? I felt like I just wasted my time in getting something I'm rarely going to play. Yes, I understand it's a $20 DLC. They can't really put new kits behind a paywall. You can't really do that these days, but let's be honest. If they did it, I feel like people might complain, but to be honest, as long as it's a good kit, people would just get it regardless. And also, this DLC already sucks enough, so you might as well have some good reward out of it. Plus, people are going to barely play the Side Order variant of it. Like, okay, it's a white color gun with some gray. Who's going to play that? The Heavy Splatling is a good example. I want to play the regular variant because the purple and the black look way more better than what the Side Order colors were. Like, I feel like I'm not gaining anything out of this, when I should be. Even the hacks make it too easy. I completed all 5 of these runs that I've shown throughout the video, with maybe losing 1 or 2 lives in a run. It makes it so easy. Shouldn't this be difficult? Shouldn't a roguelike have some difficulties? Well, allow me to answer another major reason as to why this was a disappointment. A roguelike has to do many different things that are about building up some sort of deck. It could be Balatro trying to find a deck to run that has perfect combos to get you to the highest score. It could be a simple upgrade to Cold Land to help aid in your dungeon runs. It could be a weapon and armor upgrades in Neon Abyss, or certain perks in Binding of Isaac. Each roguelike has you build some sort of deck that can help strengthen yourself in your dungeon runs. What makes roguelike so good is the replayability value. You can run all offensive deck in Neon Abyss and just bulldoze it through the rooms. And when you complete it, you can replay it with a different deck. Maybe some more defense and less attack. Cold Land might have you use more melees than using its specials. Each roguelike allows you to play more and more because of the unique sets of builds you can do, wanting to come back more and more to play. If the roguelike works, it can become a massive hit, driving in sales, making a community off of it, and having a good time overall. However, this though felt the most barren of deserts known to man. There are 30 floors. Floor 10 and floor 20 are mini bosses, randomized between 3 bosses, and floor 30 is the final big boss. The other floors have you complete an objective to gain a color palette. Depending on the weapon you choose will determine the more likely color palettes you will see during your run. For example, in this game, I used the brush and saw more mobility and lucky chips. You can still get the other color chips that isn't part of your weapon, it will just be more unlikely. That's why they say most common tone, because those are the more likely ones you are able to see. And of course, there's a hack where you can see more bias towards those two, but that doesn't mean you can still see the other color chips. The objectives you might come across may differ from protecting a zone, delivering the 8-ball to its goal, defeating some fleeting foes, destroying some portals, and escorting Turbine to its destination. Now surely there is more. No, there's not! That's all you get. 3 mini-bosses that you'll guarantee to have 2 out of 3 of them in your run, the same repetitive final boss, and the same recycled 5 objectives over and over and over again. And don't even bring the conversation of, oh, what about bonuses or dangers? That still does nothing to help change the aspect of your run. A simple, don't use Octoling form isn't going to change the run at all. Instead, you'll just forget about it, and sure, the danger gimmick can alter the field, but it barely does. Let's dive in more deeper about this, shall we? So the bonuses will give you extra membucks. What do these membucks do? They allow you to buy chips, specials, subs, etc. at the vending machines, which we'll go over a bit more later, because that's the whole topic on this freaking note. But anyways, the bonuses don't do anything. They just add an extra little challenge to it. For example, this one here, I have not use my sub weapon. I wasn't even planning on using my sub weapon in the first place. What does that do for me? That doesn't add anything to the thing. It just makes it the exact same thing, but just removes a factor. Maybe there's a challenge where I had to instead not use my special weapon. Maybe that's there, but it doesn't change the aspect of that specific individual floor. What it does is nothing. Nothing at all. You're trying to make something unique that is standing out with saying, oh, you should click this one because it's the one. It doesn't do anything. Membucks hardly do anything in the first place anyways. Once you're like halfway through the run, you're not going to care about it in the first place. Because you're more than likely just going to not care about vending machines because you're going to pick the pallets that you already have 4 or 5 through. So why pick in the first place? Let's talk about dangers now. So the danger ones are supposed to represent, oh, this big scary gimmick that you have to go ahead and deal with. They really aren't that bad, guys. I mean, encoding, no drone, no item drops, like you can't see. There's not really that many dangers that really affect it. Now, I will say this was a good attempt at creating a different playing field. Like the encoding is very fascinating, but whenever I have this OP of a weapon, it's not going to do anything for me. I could just spam my Trizuka, I could just spam my Splat Bomb, I could just spam my weapon, and easily kill him from afar. There's nothing that changes the aspect of the floor. If you got it pretty early, then there's a difference. And also, let's not forget, if you get it on like the most difficult one, and then proceed to get freaking danger, it's like, okay, what is that gonna do? And yeah, they add double dangers, they could have encoding and nothing, and that makes it a little more difficult, yeah. But it doesn't really affected by that much because what it's supposed to do is try and slow you down from going fast. But in reality, it doesn't really do that because I'm just going to be over here just shooting randomly. If I'm blinded, I can't see anything until I get it done. And I know that I'm going to hear the foes coming in near me, so I'm just going to shoot around. It doesn't slow me down. It actually pisses me off more, which is what's not supposed to do. Roguelikes are supposed to have these type of gimmicks and such that make it a little more difficult for you to handle. But it doesn't do that at all. Yes, it's not easier than what a normal level would be, but now I'm just like, what is the point of this? I'm not gaining anything out of this, I'm just doing this for a color chip. I'm not earning something from this. And there's no value I'm gaining from doing a bonus or a danger. Yes, the membucks is there and all, you get higher ones for doing danger or a bonus, but the reward at the end of the rainbow is just not good at all. Why should I do this? Why does it gain me any benefit? Because it doesn't. A little bit more to add to this conversation. Now, depending on the weapon you choose, like for example here, I actually had difficulties, but that's only because the weapon you chose is going to make it difficult for yourself. I had a freaking sniper, and it's an archipelago barrage. Of course it's going to be more difficult for me. But you can see here, I'm managing just as fine. So it isn't every single weapon that this really relates to, but for the most part, you're going to be perfectly fine with playing with a danger gimmick, which is what I've been trying to express here. It doesn't try and make things harder. Depending on the weapon, of course, it makes it harder, but for the most part, you're going to get through perfectly fine. And you have so many lives you're going to be perfectly fine with. Because once you run out of that life, it's just going to put you back where the previous turbine was, or the previous portal, etc., etc. So there's no balance to it. You want to know how Cold Lame is so good? It It's because you don't have to do the dungeon as you're only there. You can go fish, you can go play Knuckle Bones. Banger game, by the way. Customize your farm, add new followers, do beings, and even have them go on quests to gain resources for you. It isn't just about the dungeon. There are plenty of other things to do that allow you to not be forced to do the same thing repetitively. That's what side order does to you. Sure, you're correct. I can have fun running an absolute luck run as shown right here with the color chip saturation. I have a ton of fun collecting shit and making everything go over and be like, what the hell is going on? Yes, I could have fun doing an ink save run or bulldozer with tons of damage. But what else can you do? Once you do a set run for each tone, that's it. There isn't anything else you can do to mix it up. And sure, the vending machine's gonna help, but that rarely does anything because all they give you is the option to change the stuff, the special, the pearls, the chips. While my character spends 10,000 membucks on the vending machine, let me dive more deep into this vending machine thing. So they have these vending machines, 11, 21, and 15, and 25 if you get the hacks, and essentially saying, hey, here's this. If you want to buy a ton of chips, you can go ahead and do that right now. Here's the thing though, the max chips you can have in a single one is 36. And how many can you buy individually at a vending machine? 3. So essentially what they're trying to tell you to do here, right, is do the same build again. Wait a minute, repetitive? I thought we were talking about that just earlier. Yeah, because it is repetitive. So essentially what we want you to do, right, is get all the way up to 25, max your stats off on the membucks, essentially have like 25,000 membucks, and just spend it all on the chips. And then you're out of chip storage. You only get a limited amount of 36, which is a problem. Yes, I think with 50, I think would be a good amount, and 36 is too little because of how many pallets there are. Yes, there is not that much, but the problem is that once you run out of chips you can collect, you're now playing for pearls? What? You're telling me that I'm now completing runs on floors for 3 to 5 pearls? What? That doesn't give me a reward. There's no benefit for that. I'm only completing the run because I need to complete to 100% it. And people who are completionists are gonna probably do 13 runs, get each weapon, get the octo shot, and then they're done. There's no value to gain off of that. And not to mention the octo shot, you're only given a set amount of chips anyways. You can go all the way down to 6. There's nothing good out of it. That's the problem that it is with this specific mode, is that it makes the bare bones of a roguelike. It gives you the bare minimum of what you can do. We should feel more rewarded. We should feel like we have more options to play. But we don't. It's just this, that contains bosses, that contains a vending machine, that contains rewards I feel like are so slim, it doesn't even matter. Because once you get all the cosmetics, which is 4 by the way, you're done. There's nothing good out of that. Where's my beneficial rewards for paying $20 to you? When in reality, I feel like I should have paid $5 for this. What is going on? What makes roguelike so much fun is the ability to do many different decks that isn't like the others. And if you don't want to do a dungeon run, that's fine. You can go play the other modes that are available. The 2 mini bosses are the same repetitive thing over and over again in your run. You're gonna get the outcome regardless. The one you miss is like, okay, whatever, I guess. What am I gonna do? Shoot the ball and break its armor 3 times? Kill some very easy enemies? Or just shoot the tower? There's nothing fun in that. And yeah, Abyss, Binding of Isaac, and Cold Land, you're fighting for your life in those bosses because they're unique and genuinely difficult if you're not prepared for it. It's supposed to be a challenge, not baby difficulty of Minecraft. Roguelikes are supposed to allow you to be unique, not be forced to use the same things and fight the same things over and over again with barely any differences. Now, how could Nintendo have fixed this, you may ask? Well, the answer is actually more simple than you may realize. Cold Land released on August 11th, 2022. And you wanna know how it's still this popular? It's because of one important thing. Updating the game! To keep a game bustling with activity, you gotta update the game. It could be 2 major updates a year, or even 1 like how Minecraft was doing it back in the 2010s. It does not matter how many updates you do in a year. As long as you are actively working on updates to please your community and taking care of the game, the community will have your back. The problem is that Nintendo released this DLC and proceeded to never touch it ever again. The update we wanted was really easy to do anyway. We just wanted more bosses, more chips, more objectives, and more side modes to play. It was a very easy concept to understand. We just wanted more content. Here's my problem. If Nintendo's able to make side game modes like Squid Jump available in Splatoon 1, who says they couldn't add a side mode for side order? It makes 0 logical sense. Just backtrack up a couple years ago. You did already. Just do it again. People made many, and I mean it, many concepts of an update for this mode. You didn't update Octo Expansion, that shit was a masterpiece. So why couldn't you update it here instead? We're left with the most bare bones roguelikes there is. And not to mention, people who play this probably have never played a roguelike in their life, which is another problem. If you're gonna go do something completely unique to the Splatoon franchise, like creating a roguelike DLC, put some effort into it, man. Or if you're gonna give us the bare minimum, at least promise us they'll be updated to expand upon the ideas. I feel like this was a cash grab and genuine care like Octo Expansion. Of course, Octa expansion would never be topped, but come on, man, Nintendo, you can do better than this. Just a simple one-time update where you add more chips, more mini-bosses, 2 long-term final bosses, or different scenarios for small and more weapons, and it's all we were asking for. We deserve better, Nintendo. Side Order brought a lot of hype for the Splatoon community. Seeing how we will learn more about Marina's backstory and the Octoling species during the World Tour is off the hook. The inclusion of Octa to see what was going on while the time Pro Marina left, having access to new colored chips, bosses, and more story-driven DLC about Off the Hook. When it was released, we felt disappointment. What we were given instead was a bare-bones attempt at a roguelike that lacked replayability, passion, and care in every aspect, forcing us to play the same thing over and over, when that isn't what roguelikes are meant to be. We've seen roguelikes like Cold Lamp, Binding of Isaac, Neon Abyss, Balatro that take it to a different landscape. Whether that's the Poker Solitaire and Balatro farming Cold Lamp, Darcy exploring Neon Abyss and Binding of Isaac. Instead, we were given something that could have been something special in the landscape of Splatoon, but we were drawn into a cash grab that lacked the care and the passion from a company we've dedicated to for over a decade to this funny, adorable Inkling game. Splatoon 3's DLC Wave 2 was a disappointment, and we as a community deserve better. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. This one was a shorter video because there isn't a lot to talk about. Side Order in Splatoon 3, besides 3 major reasons I went over, and the extra I mentioned throughout the episode helped keep the flow of the video consistent. And its arguments as well. I also didn't cover it a ton in the Untapped Potential video in Splatoon 3 because I knew I'd make a separate video on this topic. Because there was a lot to talk about with this. In which I'm gonna do again when Summer Nights conclude in August. Sometime in August I will talk about Tricolor and how they ruined what was a perfect alternative mode for Splatfest. Just give me some time, I need footage, alright? I don't play Tricolor too much, but I've been wanting to make this video and I keep forgetting to gain footage whenever Splatfest rolls around. Next Friday, we'll return to the anime genre and chat about an anime show I recently watched in the name of The Ramparts of Ice. Now, typically outros don't do a lot to move the show. They just have some nice music as the credits roll. You know, shout out to the people who make the shows, movies, etc. However, the brilliance of The Ramparts of Ice Season 1 outro was delivered perfectly every single episode. We'll do a short 10 to 15 minute video on how the brilliance of the Ramparts of Ice outro helps encapsulate the episode even more than it does. It'll be a good one, so make sure you guys tune in. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, share the video to your friends, and subscribe to me to my video. Click that hype button to help me reach a larger audience, and hit that little bell so you get notified for when I upload and go live. All credit goes to Nintendo for making Splatoon 3 and the shitty side order mode. Links at the top of the description and mentioned in the create screen that video. Thank you again for watching. This is Ninja Joe signing out. Peace!